So you got a job in a similar field for which you have studied with Georgian college. Sometimes what happens, like international students who come here and they study with a college, sometimes they find difficulty in getting a job. Okay, so what suggestion you can give to those international students who are spending this like a huge amount? In general, if I'll say that it will be around 25 to 30,000 Canadian dollars when it comes to international student, and it is a huge amount. But for PR, like I'm a permanent resident and you are a citizen, for people like us, like we just have to spend like half of that amount. So for us, it's not that big capital, but for students who are coming from India, it's a huge amount. So, and if they don't get a job, then they go into depression and all those kind of stuff. So what tips you can give to those students?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I have a lot of tips on that actually. So first thing is Georgian College, if you're in human resources management, but also I think in every program, if not most programs, there is what we call a cooperative component. So that's an internship. And if you're a Georgian, you're really lucky because of that, because basically that gives you real experience in your job. That helps you build up your resume. And a lot of the times those internships actually turn into full-time jobs, which is really great. And so I would say the first thing is if you're at Georgian or another school that has a co-op program, prioritize that so much. Most people do find something. During COVID, it's been a little bit more difficult for some people, but there's still a lot of jobs out there, and a lot of people are working from home online, which is what I'm doing as well. So if you're in that position, reach out to your co-op supervisor. They will be there to help you with everything, and they will be able to provide you with all of the resources possible to basically ensure that you can find something, hopefully. So that's the biggest tip I have. Aside from that, constant job searching, using websites like Indeed, LinkedIn, things like that. There are a lot of opportunities, especially in entry-level positions, in HR specifically, but really in a lot of fields. And aside from that, I think networking is another big skill. So whether that's through LinkedIn specifically or through friendships or, classmates or anything like that, the more people you know, the better. Because you never know who is going to have an experience that they have available, or if they have a friend who has something available, something like that. So as long as people know your skills and they know you, your likelihood is a lot higher. And networking is a really big priority, definitely. So I think those are the big things.
And when it comes to resume, Canadian format resume, so attractive resume helps.
Yeah,
in order to get
absolutely.
a job here in Canada?
Absolutely. The more professional, the better. I would say if you're working in a creative discipline, if you're in something like graphic design or really any art field or a literary field or anything like that, you can have a really cool resume. I would recommend, doing something that is bold, something with a bright color or something like that to kind of draw the eye in and to let them know that you do have the skills to make something look really great. However, if you're in pretty much any other field, super professional, super standard, there are so many templates online that are great. Even if you just search in Canadian resume template, there's so many things that will pop up right away. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. And a big thing to keep in mind in Canada, I'm not sure how it is in India, but you really want to focus on being well-rounded. So not just in terms of how you construct your resume, but what you actually have on your resume. A lot of employers here really care about things like volunteer work. They really care about your personal interests, your experiences, skills that you may have, whether they're directly linked to the job or seem like they are or not. You never know when things are going to be valuable and important, especially because a lot of companies have things like sports teams that they encourage people to be on. And perhaps if you play basketball and they have a basketball team, that might be a little check in your box. So you never know what your strengths are, and just try to include as much as you can, but be honest as well. Don't lie and try to make yourself sound like you've done a bunch of things that you haven't, because background checks are always going on.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Samantha, you are already into this field where you are recruiting staffs, for your company. So if, like, let's say if someone is sending your resume, so what first thing you notice on a resume? You go to their work experience or education or hobbies, because some people, they don't know what to mention, what not to mention, so they just mention like big dancing, gymming, and this, that. So some things like they mention, they don't even know, like these kind of things they should not mention on our resume. So as a professional, what do you see?
A huge priority is, and right now it's kind of a new thing, is to have a top section in your resume where you kind of give a high level overview of your biggest accomplishments or whatnot. And you may say something like you graduated from a certain school, you've worked in this industry for however long you've worked in it, you're extremely interested in this thing, and maybe an award or scholarship or something that you have won. And basically that will just draw your recruiter's eye immediately, because you're basically saying, these are the best things about me, these are the most impressive things that are related to this job specifically that will benefit me in this role. And then if you pique their interest early on, they'll continue to read your resume. Otherwise they may not, to be honest. A lot of the times recruiters only have 5 to 7 seconds to look at a resume in certain industries. So having that, and yeah, work and education are definitely the most important sections for most recruiters. It does depend, but yeah, make sure those sections are strong, and make sure that you're adding detail as well. So if you're listing that you've had a job, make sure that you're listing responsibilities that you had within that job. And if you have exact numbers of what you did, or how you created change, or how much revenue you grew at your last company, or anything like that, the more detail, the better, for sure.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so one last question for you, then we will just wrap up this interview. So let's say if an international student coming here from India, and he or she is fresher, so they don't have any experience, so they are like freshers. So once they get their Canadian degree, and if they don't have any experience back home or here in Canada, so what challenges they will face, or will they get a job, or will they have to start from a different platform, or what do you think, and what suggestion you can give to all those students?
I definitely think that if you complete a degree or diploma here and you have no work experience, you are less likely to find a job, to be entirely honest. Work experience does matter a lot. So I would personally recommend, if you're like legally allowed to work in Canada in whatever discipline you work in, get a job, absolutely. A lot of students here are working part-time and attending school full-time or part-time. So it's definitely attainable, and with summers off, obviously you can work then as well. And any work is good, even if you're working like 10 hours a week or 5 hours a week. Anything you can do to get your foot in the door, I think do it. If you don't have the opportunity to work, if there's anything in terms of a residency permit or whatnot that prevents you from doing that, I would definitely recommend volunteering. For a lot of businesses, volunteering is deemed extremely important, especially because there's a movement right now towards social responsibility and being engaged in communities and supporting communities. So, for example, at Georgian College, there's the Enactus Club, which is a great club that we have on campus. There are a lot of other clubs you can volunteer with on campus as well, and other opportunities in the community for volunteering. So I would definitely recommend volunteering. If you graduate and you don't have any work experience or volunteer experience, it's not impossible to get a job, but it can be a lot harder. You'll definitely be more likely to get a job if you have high grades, if you have won awards, if you have kind of done anything to really distinguish yourself from your peers. So, for example, if you start a charity or something like that, or if you have presented at conferences, or really anything along those lines that's differentiating, you're a lot more likely to have a chance. But without any of those things, it is very difficult. You may be able to find an opportunity. However, if you're in something more tech related, a lot of those jobs, as long as you have the education. You know, there's so many jobs in tech right now that
Yeah.
you'll probably be able to find something. And Georgian College has a lot of great programs. I think they started a new AI program, I want to say, or something, blockchain, I'm not sure. They started something new recently. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to check those out, but definitely work on, you know, building up your resume, upskilling. If you can take extra classes anywhere or anything like that, the more you can do for yourself, the better. And there will be a lot of people along the way to support you. So don't hesitate to reach out to people at Georgian College, even your friends at Georgian College or anyone. But you have student success advisors and things like that, and they can give you a lot of help with setting yourself up for graduating. So.
Yes, yes, yeah. And Samantha, I just forgot to ask you this thing that for a student, what monthly expense we can expect here?
Yeah.
Like accommodation kind of thing, like monthly accommodation and their transportation. What do you think? What?
For sure. So I can't speak on tuition just because I know it is a lot higher for international students. I don't know the exact figure at Georgian College. But excluding tuition, expenses are very high. I'm not gonna lie. Living expenses are crazy. And so basically it depends kind of where you live. If you live with other people, I would definitely recommend, if you're an international student, you already have so many expenses. If you can find other people to live with, if you can find roommates, it's, you know, a great option. And there are a lot of opportunities for that at Georgian College. There is like on-campus housing, kind of like there's these apartments that are right by campus.
But that is a little bit expensive, like if they go for a college accommodation.
It is, yeah. It depends on the type of living experience you have there, because some of them are more expensive than others. So I'm not too sure on the specifics about that. But in general, I would say with rent, food, transportation, everything like that, you should count for an absolute minimum of $1,000 a month. That is if you're living with probably like 6 other people or 5 other people. And if you're really keeping costs down, because things are expensive, especially if you have a car, especially if you like to go out for meals or entertainment or things like that.
Parties, late night parties.
Exactly. And you know, if you're coming to Canada for school, obviously you're going to want to try all of the fun stuff and go on tours and go to Toronto and Ottawa and all the fun places. So I would say between $1,000 to $2,000 Canadian a month is, you should be fine. You you know, if you want to live on your own in a very lofty, like nice apartment and do everything, you're going to need a lot more than that. But if you're comfortable, you know, taking the bus and living with some roommates and things like that, you could definitely make that work in that budget. And, you know, like I said before, getting a job, super important if you are an international student and have the opportunity, or for anyone just in general during education, it's a great idea. So there are ways that you can offset that cost. And I would definitely recommend just student life. Keep it cheap. Don't party too much. And, you know, be careful with your expenses for sure.
And how much they can earn in a month in like a student, an average in Toronto?
Yeah. Well, it depends. It's hard because there's no for sure answer that I can give. One thing I will say is at Georgian College, there are jobs on campus that you can have. I think most of them pay just slightly over minimum wage. And if you do something like that, I mean, you could make, working minimal hours, you could make $1,000 a month for sure.
$1,000 a month, because they have a restriction that they can only work for 20 hours in a week.
20 hours a week, yeah. I would recommend work the full 20 if you can. But yeah, it really depends on your job. I mean, if you're working part-time, I would say between $1,000 to $2,000 a month. 2,000 being, you know, not very likely.
Yes,
But
yes,
if you're
yeah.
working full time, some people do work full time and study full time. I don't know how they do it. They
Yeah,
must be.
they work in cash jobs and all. I don't personally recommend anyone
I
doing
don't either.
those kind of
Yeah,
things. Even a government have told you to work 20 hours, so just stick on that. And even if they
yeah,
work for 20 hours, they can make a decent amount. So between, I would say,
absolutely.
at least $1,500 a student can earn here in Canada
Yeah,
if he have a good job. So
yeah.
yeah, so Samantha, so I think you have provided valuable information to all our viewers, and I also want to thank you for all your time. Before ending this video, do you want to tell anything to our students or new immigrants who are planning to come here and live in a new land?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, welcome. Please come to Canada. It's a great place to live. I would definitely recommend, like, I've lived abroad before. I lived in Turkey for a year. I understand that it's really scary when you first get to a new place and, dealing with the language and everything like that. It can become a lot. One thing that is comforting, I think, to know is, especially if you're at Georgian College in Barrie, but really in a lot of places, especially in Ontario, there are a ton of people who you can connect with, who will speak your language, who will understand what you're going through, who you can talk to. So reach out to other people going through the same thing as you, because it'll definitely help to have a support system in place. But I would also recommend, make sure that you're making Canadian friends, make sure that you're getting the whole experience, and just reach out to as many people as you can. Make it fun. Don't make it scary if you can avoid it. I know it is scary inherently, but so many people are going to be willing to help you, willing to support you in whatever way they can. Um, if you're at a college, there are so many clubs and committees and programs and things that you can join to have a really nice active social life. So I would definitely, recommend doing that and just have fun. I don't know what else to say. I think you'll like Canada. It's a really interesting place to live, and we're not without our faults, but striving towards improvement. So yeah, we'd be lucky to have you.
Okay, thank you, Samantha, and you also stay safe, stay healthy,
Yes,
and
thank you.
yeah, stay connected.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you. Have a good one. Thank you.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.